My name is Richard Dropiak. I am the interim chair of the Economic Development Committee for Community Board 3. This is the May 2023 meeting of the committee, and we have a rather limited agenda. The major part of the agenda, well, one thing that we normally do is to approve the previous minutes, but it's been a while since the committee has met, and the general rule for the community board now is that if no one has any objection to the acceptance of the minutes, we will deem it approved. If that is the case, then do I hear any objection to the minutes? None? Okay, great, thank you. Attendance. Herman Hewitt.
Here.
Megan Joy.
Here, yes.
Andrea Gordillo. Is that a yes?
Hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. And Richard Dropiak. Okay, we anticipate a presentation this evening concerning 14th Street, a proposal that has been on Community Board 3's books for several years now. I forget what the former site was. Luchow's? I forget what it was. Oh no, it was the
PC Richards.
PC Richards. Thank you. So, Megan, you'll pick it up from there.
Yeah, so this is, I think as most of you are aware, what's now called Zero Irving at Union Square. And it was the former PC Richards site that was going to be turned into a tech hub, which is what we had asked on this committee and through our community board in our district needs statement. We had asked the city. The project finished substantial completion in August. Is that right, Andrew?
Yes.
In August, and what we're discussing this evening is $200,000 donation that RAL is going to give annually into a workforce development fund. And the way that's going to work is RAL, the developer, donates the money. The community advisory board, which I sit on, would recommend how best to use that money, and then EDC administers the funds. So on our most recent meeting, the first round of funds was supposed to be, or was issued on completion of the project. And the next rounds of funds, the next $200,000 was going to be issued at the beginning of the lease, right? Which is happening in August of 2023. So there was 2 rounds of funding that the CAB was discussing in the last meeting. And the first round of funding, the CAB had come to consensus on being used for 2 specific programs. There were 900-hour certificate programs in home automation, and another certificate program in robotics. And the first $200,000 is going to be used to make sure that those programs get up and running. In the second round of the $200,000, we had decided was going to be used for wraparound services for those programs. So given to FedCap again, and sorry, not necessarily given to FedCap, but given to the participants of those programs. And what hasn't exactly been fleshed out is, are they going to go to computers? Are they going to go to, funding daycare so that participants can actually, participate in the programs? But it was going to the participants of those programs in order for them to be able to see those programs through and graduate from them. I'll take some questions if you guys have them. We had also
Well-
discussed sort of how this how the funding was going to be, the timing of it all, of how we were going to. But let's discuss actually those two, the 2 rounds of programming that I just talked about.
Could I ask Andrew to pronounce his last name for me? I don't want to
Oh,
mispronounce it.
No
And
problem. It's okay.
for the project.
I know it's pronounced Roche,
Okay.
and you can screw it up. It's okay. I always say you never know how to say it, but everybody remembers they saw it. So, so thank you.
And I forget what your relationship to the program is.
I'm the founder of Civic Hall and the president of Civic Hall.
Okay. Thank you. Megan, could you clarify for me, if you know, who the members of the Community Advisory Board are?
Yeah, they are Matt Green, or sorry, Andrew, who's on this meeting, Andrea, who is Andrea, you're Carlina's appointee, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Katie,
Webster?
no, Katie Loeb. I'm just trying to remember. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out. I've got the list of attendees. I'm trying to figure out who are the actual members and who were just in attendance.
Okay, when you have a chance, if you could flesh that out.
Janie Tung is now on for a lesson.
Yeah,
EDC appointed her, and
Jeannie Tung.
yeah, she works for Henry Street Settlement for work. She's replacing Gaspar.
Yeah.
And I think EDC has 2 other new appointments, and I don't remember their name.
Gigi Lee was sitting
Yeah.
on EDC's appointment, and that's going to be replaced now. Daniel Alam is from the Borough President's Office. Where's Dario from?
Pedro?
Pedro.
Yeah, so it's I'm guessing like 10 people, roughly.
Would community board be able to get that list?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, last.
In fact, I'll include it in the minutes. How's that? So when
Okay.
distribute the minutes.
Last thing for me, and then I'll throw it open to everybody else. How is FedCap factoring into the project now?
So Megan and Susan, should maybe I give it a quick update?
Yeah, I'd love that.
So thank you very much for inviting me, and again, thank you so much for initially supporting this project. Even though it's currently called Zero Irving, I refer to it as Civic Hall at Union Square because it's really a building within a building, and its goal is to be a very prominent new community center to serve the public in a very visible and very accessible location. We got this project approved by your community board and then by the city planning and then by the city council back in 2018. And the developer then proceeded to negotiate a lease with EDC, which he signed for the ground lease. And then we started negotiating ourselves, Civic Hall, with the developer for our portion of the building, which is about a third and about 85,000 square feet of this total 267,000 square foot building. That negotiation process was arduous, but and required certain kinds of financial obligations to satisfy the developer's security needs that Civic Hall, in fact, could facilitate this project. And then, as you all well know, in March of 2020, COVID hit us all, and we actually had to close our facility, our existing facility in the Flatiron district, because we couldn't operate under COVID as a collaborative community center. And we also realized that it was going to be very difficult for us to raise the funds and satisfy all of the security and financial requirements that the developer was placing on us for this property. So I reached out to Christine McMahon, who's the CEO of FedCap, which is a very large $450 million annual budget traditional workforce development organization that you may have heard of, but that runs multiple programs in New York, including Wildcat, Easter Seals, Single Stop, FedCap Cares, and most recently acquired Apex Technical School, which you may have heard of or seen sometimes advertised on the subways. And I asked if they would be willing to partner with us on this project, and they enthusiastically agreed, and essentially acquired Civic Hall as a subsidiary. So Civic Hall still exists as a separate 501c3 with its own board, and its mission remains the same, but we are now backed financially by a much larger nonprofit called FedCap, who is helping us stand this project up. It's a massive undertaking to try to pull all the pieces together to make this work financially as well as programmatically. And so we're very, very fortunate to have FedCap essentially standing behind us. But I'm here to confirm for you and for the rest of the community board that the original vision and the original goals of the project remain the same, and that we are now almost finished construction. We signed our lease with the developer. We started construction. We are about 60, almost 70% complete, and we anticipate that we will be open to the public late summer. In fact, we're looking for a date for the mayor and other dignitaries to come and do a grand opening. And when it's finished, there will be approximately 22 classrooms for digital skills training of various kind available to multiple workforce development organizations. There will be collaborative workspace that will allow people from those organizations, their constituent students, and people from the tech community to use and interact with each other. And the other piece of the puzzle that FedCap provides, which I think is very, very important, is that they have a long history of providing wraparound services for their populations, for the populations they serve. So, for example, access to benefits through workforce, while they're going through workforce development programs, FedCap provides support to help making sure that these people have full benefits available to them that they may not even know they're eligible for, as well as things like financial literacy training, guidance counseling, internships, and mentoring. So the FedCap not only stood behind us financially, but is bringing a capacity to this project that wasn't, to be honest, wasn't really part of our original. I mean, it's not that we didn't care about these issues, but the integration of support services as wrapped around workforce development is a component that Civic Hall didn't have, a capacity Civic Hall didn't have, and FedCap does. So when it's finished, it will be the largest digital skills training center of its kind, focused on underserved or underrepresented, and I like to say underestimated populations. And we are pulling together all the pieces. We just recently hired a new executive director. Her name is Seema Shah. She literally started 10 days ago. She was going to join me for this call, but unfortunately she had a previous commitment and we made this date before she started. But she's available to talk to you at some other future time, and I'm very excited about her joining the team. And we are continuing to talk to various workforce development organizations that are running programs, are still interested in using the space and are very interested in our idea that their students would be not only supported by their work in our facility, but they would also have access to these other services that many of these workforce development organizations do not have access to. And lastly, they're very excited about the fact that we continue to build partnerships with large and small tech companies that will act as a pool of employers. So for example, both Google and Amazon have agreed to sponsor the project and to participate. We have a relationship with Cognizant, which is a large tech company. And we're also in continuous contact with the City of New York, various departments, particularly the technology, the city's Office of Technology and Innovation, about ways that the city can participate with their goals to hire technology talent as part of the city's ranks as well. So that sort of, I think I'll just stop there just to let you ask me any questions. But
Thank you for that. I'll turn to Herman now, and I know he participated in this discussion when it originally occurred. Herman, do you have any comments or questions?
My question is, since we put a lot of ideas about community involvement, how would the intake process be for young people or those who'd like to enter your program? Is there an application process, a recommendation process?
yes, yep. So I want to be clear. Civic Hall itself is not a workforce development organization. We are a facilitator. We are providing space, and we are providing connection, and we are providing resources of various kinds. The training that will happen in this facility will happen by individual workforce development organizations of various kinds who will share the space and already have constituent students that they serve, and they have their own application process for how those students get into their program. We are relying on them to continue their work of outreach. And one of those program providers is Apex Technical School, which is building out, for example, a cybersecurity training program that will exist in this facility. And they will continue to do the same sort of outreach that they already do in order to attract students. Our job is to give them space and to give them resources, and maybe to share curriculum, share students, share teachers, and share access to employers. And so there isn't a formal application process to Civic Hall. There will be, if just kind of imagine someone walking in the door, hearing about this place and saying, I'd like to get training. Our team at the front desk will, in effect, introduce them to the community of various workforce development organizations. And there'll be some sort of intake program that will develop that identifies what level they may already have some skills, they have no skills, whatever it may be, but we will facilitate connecting them to multiple workforce development providers that will be under our roof. So I don't have a specific application process to explain to you, Herman, but we are thinking very hard about making sure that that literally anyone off the street could conceivably be connected. And because of our relationship with Community Board 3, we are particularly interested in connecting with various community groups that already are either doing digital skills training in your district or are trying to find people jobs, meaningful jobs, well-paying jobs that have some sort of digital component, and making sure that they are able to access the resources of Civic Hall on a in essence on a priority basis, because we believe that we are part of the Community Board of 3 community, and we need to take care of our own first. And then once we can make sure that there's validation of that promise, we will continue to look, to other potential opportunities for New Yorkers, maybe outside of the district. Yes, Susan.
The reason I do that because although some of us was hesitant about approving certain things, there's a lot of energy of people in the Lower East Side, whether it's political or just members of community board or interested people, have put a lot of effort into making this happen. So my concern is how the outreach would be by those people who is coming in, since your organization wouldn't be the training arm, that we could outreach, not necessarily for jobs, because we could train if the people gets the training, the youngsters get the training, they could go out and get separate jobs. They don't necessarily have to rely on your organization, but at least be able to get into those training programs in order to benefit on a constant basis, not just like, a city comes in and say, we're going to do this program, and you're going to get 50 jobs and 4 permanent jobs and 2 regular jobs. And then what happened is, when some of us show up at those housing development or programs, there's nobody from the neighborhood.
Herman, if I could speak to that, Lower East Side Employment Network is on the CAB and involves all of our settlement houses, and they're working with a lot of, it's our youth and our other residents who, and I think through them, there's going to be a tremendous outreach, from the people are already involved.
Thank you, Susan. That's what I was getting to, is whether that coordination would exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also we spoke to Seema Shah, who is, she's the executive director of FedCap, about trying to track some of this, about tracking who's getting involved in the programs. So we're working with her on that.
Henry, if I could just say one more thing. I remember how many times we presented and how important this project and the emotional connection to the community was demonstrated during the entire time. And I'm still here, and I am dedicated to making sure that the connections and the coordination that was originally promised will happen in a substantive and measurable way. And now that we have Seema on as executive director, that priority has been made very apparent to her. And over the next, I'd say 3 to 6 months, you will start seeing and hearing about how some of these conversations are going to result in direct participation by groups such as Lesson and Henry Street Settlement and others who are in the community and recognize this project as something that can be very helpful to them and to their constituents.
I wanted to say thank you for continuing to stay with the project. I recall you at the beginning of it, and you were a calm, reasonable, well-prepared voice, and it's become your life work, more or less. I don't know if you like it that way, but that's what it is. Megan, do you have, Andrea, do you have any comments or questions that you would like to pose at this time?
Any questions? Like, I've been privy to the to the CAB meetings myself, so we've spent quite a lot of time deliberating the process of the fund and its allocation, particularly in the beginning, right? This is the startup, the first year doing it. So we've spent a lot of time deliberating the specifics of that, and it's an ongoing conversation, and we've taken a lot of consideration to its original purpose and the original intent that we as a community board has spent a lot of time deliberating. And so yeah, I'm pretty happy with what we've come up with. And yeah, that's all I really wanted to share, was that the CAB is you know, and like I said, meeting.
You've broken up in little parts.
My headphones in, and sometimes it breaks up. So
Sure. Okay.
At the
Thank
gist
you.
of it, though.
I'm curious what Megan commented earlier about EDC administering the funds. Are you folks all comfortable with what you've seen from EDC in terms of what their participation is going to be, and whether this is going to be a stellar financially operated organization?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything to prove to the contrary. And I think the CAB is doing most of the legwork on, you know, we're going to be bringing the providers in, listening to different proposals or ideas about how the funds should be used, deciding among a group, and then I guess EDC does have the final say, but they are taking the CAB's recommendations.
Yeah, Megan, if I could, I actually happen to be the co-chair of the CAB, even though I'm in the role of the Civic Hall.
Right.
And one of the things we discussed at the CAB the last time, which I think might be helpful here, is that we're trying to develop a mechanism by which every year the executive director of Civic Hall would give a report to the CAB on the progress of the entire project, and potentially identify places that the money that's coming for every year, recommendations on how to leverage that money for the largest impact, with, you know, potentially with data to support the proposals of various kinds that may come in. And so we are anticipating that there's going to be a constant communication mechanism and frankly what I would call a accountability mechanism built in to ensure that this project delivers on its promises, and that there's participation by local leaders and local workforce development partners.
One last thing that I forgot, it was I passed by on the bus a week or two ago, and there was supposed to be, I don't know if there already is, or I was pretty sure there was supposed to be a commercial facility on the ground floor.
There is.
Facility.
Yeah, it's open.
Okay.
There's a food hall.
How is that
Yeah,
working?
the food court is open.
Yeah, I've been there 3 times today, and I go often. I give tours of the facility and then bring everybody downstairs. There's about 8 or 9 food vendors, all local, they're not chains, and the windows slide open. So on a nice day like today, the big huge windows slide open, and people walk by and they can see inside, and there's people inside, and there's also an outdoor seating area that was built in the back. It's quite nice. And once Civic Hall opens, by the way, and I've talked to the owners of the space, Urban Space, about connecting with the owners of these food stalls, and helping them with their technical needs, as well as potentially inviting some of their employees to train in our programs. So yes, there is a commercial component, and there's a separate entrance, by the way, to the office space. So the developer went ahead and built the rest of the building. And so there's an office component which is actually open and operating and almost fully leased, believe it or not, in this market. That's the facility that you can call Zero Irving. That's the commercial portion of the building. But next to the lobby of Zero Irving, there's a new lobby that's being built right now, which is the Civic Hall at Union Square lobby. And there will be a prominent sign over our door. And there will also be a sign in the windows on our 3rd floor facing out that will identify Civic Hall physically, so that when you talk about it in the future, and I'm saying this with a smile on my face, you'll refer to it not as the tech hub, but rather as the community center known as Civic Hall at Union
That's
Square.
fantastic. I actually didn't know that, Andrew. I love that there's going to be a separate lobby and your own signage and.
Well, I mean, I you know, when I see you and give you a tour, Megan, I'll give you a little bit of the backstory about that. It's not exactly as smooth and clean as you just described, but I mean, I really consider you all as colleagues, because this was a labor of incredible love and work, and it's coming to fruition. But now we have to pull the pieces together, and so the CAB is also playing a role in making sure that me or anybody who comes after me is connected to the community in a substantive and meaningful way. And so this isn't just another like simple report. This is the core of what we did together to get this thing off the ground. And it's hard to put all the pieces together, but I can't wait to show it to you. Like, just tell me if you want to come do a tour. Anybody from the community board who wants to come give it, see it. I want people to feel like it's coming to life. I want people to feel like they have agency to ask questions or to question the program. And I want to share the success of actually getting it done. So just let me know when you're ready to come.
Okay. Susan has a comment or question?
I just wanted to add a few things. One, as far as, I've also been in the food hall and eaten a lot. And actually through Capolino, met with them to identify a handicap accessible door, which they had not done, and, work with them to make the door as easy as possible. But I also wanted to tell you that the person that the community board deals with at EDC in relation to this project is Gigi. And I don't know if everyone knows she's working there now. So she certainly knows the ins and outs and how important it is to us. So, I feel very confident in that.
Thank you.
One question I want to add, because I wasn't able to get to the back of the building. How much is the impact of that building on the
HELP
buildings on 13th Street?
Yes. So HELP was actually one of the organizations that wrote a letter of support when we were going through the Euler process.
Right.
And the developer during the time of construction was in touch with them, and there's actually been a renovated backyard that has been built for HELP. So when you go through the food hall and you get to the seating area outside, you can actually look down and across and see a very accessible and newly installed backyard for the HELP facility. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was actually talking to the manager of the food hall today, and who I've become friends with, and I actually said to him, I'd like to introduce you to the folks at HELP, because some of the people who work there could conceivably get jobs working here in the food hall. And I'm actually seeing Seema, my executive director, tomorrow, and I'm reminding her of a promise we made when we met with HELP, that we would reach out to make sure that they themselves are connected to either jobs at Civic Hall or training opportunities at Civic Hall in some demonstrative way. So when you go physically and go look, you can see that people are able to use the backyard, which is very bright because the back of the building is reflective, and so the sun hitting it lights up the backyard. It doesn't feel like a like a canyon. It feels open and airy, and the public area for help, or the common area for help, is quite nice. So I actually think that this is an example of a real success, because normally these kinds of buildings get built and there's always some damage to the communities. The light is blocked, or access is blocked. This didn't happen here. So when you come, Herman, I'll show you, and maybe by the time you come, I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about how we're working with help.
Okay.
Great. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for Andrew or Megan or anybody else on the panel? Great. I thank you very much for the input and the update, and I look forward, and I'm pretty sure the community board and the committee will look forward to catching up to you sometime in the near future as you progress.
Yes, please let me know. And Megan, just if anybody asks, just let me know. You don't have to, if you don't have time, I'll be happy to take them myself.
Okay, and as Susan said at the beginning, this was just a presentation. There will be no motion concerning this project at the time. Whether one will be necessary in the near future, that will depend on events.
It's a pleasure to see you. It's a pleasure
thank
to see you
everybody
all.
for
Thank
being
you.
with us.
Continue. Thank you for your
You have to
support.
take attendance, Richard.
Okay, Megan?
I'm going to depart. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right, talk to you soon. Thanks.
Herman?
Yes.
Andrea? I just heard from her a minute ago, so I will count her as a
Yes, sorry, I was having
Appreciate it.
No
trouble.
problem. And Richard. Okay.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Andrew Comey's on
Andrew
now.
Comey.
Andrew
I'm
Comey.
also here. Yes, I'm
Nice
just not on
to see you,
camera,
Andrew
Richard.
Comey. Sorry?
I'm just not on camera, but I'm here.
Great. Nice to hear your voice.
Sure. Is that it? Are we adjourning?
Yep.
Effectively, unless you have something that you'd like to bring up.
I do. I emailed Susan about this yesterday. I'm concerned that we seem to have just put the special district underground and poured dirt on it, and that it is considered dead. And I don't think it should be. And I'd love to figure out how we revive this in this new structure of whatever type of committee we are, because obviously we're not meeting monthly anymore. So.
Thank you for bringing it up. I would, I believe that the community board is anticipating hearing from the borough president's office in terms of appointees and reappointees within the next week or two. Once the dust settles down from that, let's see if I take your point. We all put in a lot of time and effort on
Years and years, and we have
Yeah.
we have a resolution, and we had an outreach plan, and obviously COVID derailed that a little bit. But I know the Village Preservation and EBCC are eager to do outreach. So
Great, thank you for the, and I would, if you're available and interested when we reconvene on this, I would appreciate your input.
yeah, I'm not going anywhere, Richard.
Okay. See you on First Avenue, Andrew.
All right.
Okay, thank you all, folks.
All
Have
right.
a
All right.
good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.